NASA and its international partners plan to start building the Gateway station in the Moon's orbit in the next few years. When it is finished near the end of the decade, the Space Lab will be about 1/6 the size of the International Space Station. It will have 2 modules for living in. Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today, we'll share the updates regarding the Lunar Gateway. Let's get started. The first 2 parts of the Gateway are called the Power Propulsion Element, or PPE, and the Habitation and Logistics Outpost, or HALO. They will be sent into space on a Falcon Heavy rocket in the next few years. The trip to the Moon will take about a year and will be powered by solar electric power propulsion. So by the end of 2026, the main Gateway should be up and running and ready for the first crew from Artemis 4. It will be quite comparable to the International Space Station in many ways. On the other hand, it's more like camping than staying in a hotel for 6 months, which is what they do on the ISS. The Artemis 3 is the simplest and most efficient way to get a crew to the surface. After that, all future expeditions will end up at the Gateway. It will be a place where people can gather. A human landing system along with supplies, research tools, EVA suits, and other similar items will be sent into space before a mission. The 4 members of the crew will finally get to the Orion. 2 of the crew members get into a lander and go to the surface of the Moon, while the other 2 stay on the Gateway and do research or maintenance. The International Space Exploration Coordination Group, or ISECG, which is made up of more than 14 different space agencies, including all the major ones, has decided that Gateway systems will be essential for sending people to the Moon, Mars, and other places in the solar system. After 2024, NASA's Artemis program, which includes the project, is expected to use it in a big way. Even though NASA is in charge of the project as a whole, the Gateway is expected to be built, maintained, and run with the help of the Canadian Space Agency, the European Space Agency, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and other commercial partners. It is where NASA's deep space transport plan for getting to Mars is supposed to start. And it will be where both robots and people start exploring the south pole of the Moon. The Gateway idea is still being worked on, but when it's done, it's supposed to have the following modules. The Gateway Logistics modules will be used to help with logistics, as well as refueling and resupplying on the small space station. The Canadian Space Agency will build the robotic arm that will be part of the first logistics module that will be sent to the Gateway. In the Gateway Airlock module, there would be a docking port for the proposed deep space transport. This module would also be used to do things outside of the mini space station. The Canadarm3 is a robot arm with a 28-foot reach that is similar to the Canadarm on the Space Shuttle and the Canadarm2 on the International Space Station. The Canadian Space Agency, or CSA, will be contributing the arm to this multinational endeavor as part of the collaboration. MDA, which used to be called McDonald, Detweiler & Associates, was in charge of building the arm. In the past, MDA built Canadarm2 and its predecessor, Spar Aerospace, built Canadarm. It is planned that the Gateway will be placed in a highly elliptical near-rectilinear halo orbit, or NRHO, around the Moon. The station will be in its orbit for 7 days. At its closest point, it will be 1,500 kilometers or 930 miles from the North Pole of the Moon. But it will be as far away as 70,000 kilometers from the South Pole. It is hoped that trips to and from cislunar space, which is also called lunar orbit, will help people learn the skills and knowledge they will need for trips past the Moon and into deep space. For lunar expeditions to reach a low polar orbit, the proposed NRHO needs a delta V of 730 meters per second and a transit time of 0.5 days. The Gateway is where these trips would start. Gateway will be the first modular space station that can be used by people and can run most of the time on its own in the first few years. In addition, Gateway will be the first station in deep space, which means it will be far from Earth. This will be possible because the software used to run the space station will be more advanced than what has been used on any other space station before. All of the systems will be watched and controlled by this software. In situ resource use, or ISRU, from the Moon and asteroids could also be developed and tested with the help of the Gateway. Also, the Gateway would give people the chance to slowly build up the skills they need for more complicated missions over time. Even though NASA has high hopes for the project, many people are criticizing it. NASA officials are promoting the Gateway as a reusable command module that could be used to run things on the surface of the Moon. On the other hand, space experts have had both positive and negative things to say about the Gateway. Former NASA Administrator Michael D. Griffin says that the Gateway won't be useful until there are facilities on the Moon that can make propellant that can be sent to the Gateway. The Gateway will only be useful if you do this. Griffin thinks that once this goal is reached, the Gateway could be used as a place to store fuel. Clive Neal, a geologist at the University of Notre Dame and an advocate for the Lunar Exploration Program, referred to the Gateway as a waste of money and asserted that NASA is not fulfilling space policy by building an orbital space station around the Moon. Clive Neal is a supporter of the program to explore the Moon. Robert Zubrin, who started the Mars Society, called the Gateway NASA's worst idea ever in an article that was published in the National Review. He said, "We don't need a space station that goes around the Moon to get to the Moon. We don't need a station at all for our mission to Mars. We don't need it to travel to asteroids that are close to Earth. We have no way to use it to get anywhere. Also, we can't do anything in this kind of station that we couldn't do in the International Space Station, which circles the Earth. In such a station, the only thing we can do is irradiate people, which is a form of medical research for which a number of Nazi doctors were put to death." In addition, Zubrin added, if the goal is to build a base on the Moon, that base should be built on the surface of the Moon. That's where the science is, where the shielding materials are, and where the resources are that can be used to make fuel and other important things. Regarding the budget of this project, when a group of people work together to send big, heavy things into space, especially to the Moon or other planets, the costs can be, well, let's just say, astronomical. As you might guess, this can be a very pricey thing to do. Because the schedule and scope of the project are always changing, no one knows yet how much the Lunar Gateway program will cost in total. We do know that NASA's contract with SpaceX for the launch of the first two important parts of the Lunar Gateway, the PPE and the Halo, is for $331.8 million. But the final price will probably have 10 or 11 zeros after it. In March 2022, we also learned that the Biden administration wants to give NASA $26 billion for the year 2023. Of this amount, $7.5 billion would go to the Artemis program and $779 million would go to the Lunar Gateway project. One auditor told CNBC that the Artemis Gateway project will cost taxpayers billions more than expected. And a recent audit of Artemis by the Inspector General showed that $40 billion has already been spent on the program. It is expected that NASA will spend $93 billion on the Artemis program by the year 2025. People are hopeful that this works out and everyone is safe around this project. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and comment down your opinion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.